Picture this. Someone you know finally hits $20,000 saved. 3 years of saying no. 3 years of skipping trips, driving the same car, pretending not to notice when friends upgraded their lives. 3 years of quiet discipline. And then 6 months later, they're back at $3,000, staring at their bank account like it personally betrayed them, wondering what the hell happened. Or maybe that person is you. Here's what's insane. The hard part wasn't saving the $20,000. That part, that's just time and friction and delayed gratification. That's packing lunches and ignoring Amazon carts and telling yourself next year. The hard part is the 48 hours after you hit that number. That's when your brain starts whispering, you deserve something nice. You've earned an upgrade. You can finally stop living like a broke college student. And that whisper, that's the most dangerous voice in your financial life. Because that voice is what separates people who quietly retire with $2 million from people who work until they're 70, wondering why it never clicked. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money and why people sabotage themselves right after they start winning. And today, we're talking about the most fragile moment in your financial journey. The moment right after you've saved something meaningful. Because nobody tells you this. There are only two paths from $20,000. Either you turn it into $350,000 over the next 30 years, or you incinerate it trying to look successful. And the difference? It comes down to what you do in the next 2 weeks. Let's talk about what actually works. First question, and I don't care how excited you are, do you have high interest debt? I'm talking credit cards, personal loans, anything charging you more than 6 to 7%? Because if you got $10,000 sitting on a credit card at 22% interest, you don't have $20,000 saved. You have $10,000 saved and $10,000 bleeding. Let me show you the math, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. If you owe $10,000 at 22% and make minimum payments, it can take over 25 years to pay off. You'll pay roughly $14,000 in interest alone. You borrowed $10,000. You give the bank $14,000 extra for the privilege. Meanwhile, if you invest $10,000 hoping for 10% annual returns, you are paying a guaranteed 22% to earn a possible 10%. That's not investing. That's mathematically volunteering to lose. I knew someone who had $18,000 saved and $12,000 in credit card debt at 21%. He told himself, building wealth early is everything, so he invested $10,000 in index funds and kept the card. 3 years later, the market was up 30%. His $10,000 turned into $13,000. Sounds good, right? Except he paid $8,000 in interest over those 3 years. His $3,000 gain cost him $8,000. He was $5,000 poorer than if he'd just killed the debt first. When I walked him through the math, he just stared at me like I'd told him gravity was optional. Guaranteed returns beat potential returns. Every time. Rule, anything over 7% interest? Destroy it. Credit cards at 22%? Gone. Personal loans at 15%? Obliterated. Federal loans at 6.4%? That's borderline. I lean toward paying them off because eliminating guaranteed drag feels amazing. Debt is negative compounding. It makes you poorer while you sleep. Kill it. Okay, you're debt-free, you're not bleeding anymore. Now your brain says, cool, let's invest everything. Wrong. There's a step almost everyone skips, and it destroys them later. The emergency fund? I know, it's boring. It feels like doing nothing, but it's not nothing. If you're single, stable job, no dependents, 3 months of essential expenses. Mortgage, kids, freelance income, 6 months minimum. For most people, that's $7,500 to $24,000. And yes, that might mean most of your $20,000 just sits there. Good, because an emergency fund isn't an investment, it's insurance. Let me paint the alternative. Your transmission dies, $1,800. All your money is invested. Now you have 3 choices. Sell investments and maybe take losses and taxes. Put it on a credit card at 22%. Or ignore the problem and hope it magically fixes itself. All 3 suck. Without an emergency fund, you make decisions from panic instead of power. And panic is expensive. Where does this money sit? A high-yield savings account. Something FDIC insured. Not checking. Not the stock market. If you're comparing options, places like Marcus by Goldman Sachs or Ali Bank usually offer competitive rates. Sometimes you'll see banks like UFB Direct offering higher promotional yields. It doesn't matter which one is perfect. It matters that it's safe. Your emergency fund's job is not to grow. It's to stand guard. Now, high interest debt gone, emergency fund in place, you've got maybe $5,000 to $10,000 left. This is where wealth building actually begins. Priority number 1, max your Roth IRA. The contribution limit adjusts for inflation. Check the official site at Internal Revenue Service for the current number. Why is the Roth IRA so powerful? Because everything inside it grows tax-free, not tax-deferred, tax-free. If you're 25 and you invest $7,500 today and it compounds at 10% for 40 years, that single contribution could grow to roughly $339,000. And you owe zero taxes on the gains. If that same money sat in a taxable brokerage account, you'd owe tens of thousands in capital gains. You're planting a seed and locking in today's tax rate forever. That's absurdly powerful. Okay, you funded the Roth. Now what? This is where people blow it. They open Reddit. They Google best stocks 2026. They ask their cousin about crypto. Stop. Inside that Roth IRA, buy a broad index fund, something like Vanguard S&P 500 ETF or Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. These funds track the market. Low expense ratios, massive diversification, historically around 10% annual returns over long periods. When you buy VOO, you're buying 500 of the largest companies in America. You're not betting on one genius CEO. You're betting on the American economy. And historically, that's been a good bet. You know who finds the next Apple? Not you at midnight reading earnings reports. People with inside information. Everyone else is guessing. Buy the index. Let compounding do its thing. Let's talk numbers. Invest $20,000 at 10%. In 10 years, around $52,000. 20 years, around $134,000. 30 years, roughly $349,000. You turn $20,000 into nearly $350,000 by doing nothing. Now add $500 per month. After 30 years at 10%, over $1.5 million. At a 4% withdrawal rate, that's $60,000 per year, forever. That's a salary from a decision you made today. And here's the painful part. Wait 5 years to invest that same $20,000? You lose over $130,000 in future value. That delay costs you years of working life. Procrastination isn't expensive in dollars, it's expensive in time. Now I know what your brain just did. You saw those numbers and thought, what if I could get 15% instead? Careful, this is where people implode. They see the market near all-time highs and decide to wait. But markets spend most of their time near all-time highs because they trend upward. There was a study that looked at the worst possible investor, someone who invested right before every major crash from 1970 onward. They still ended up wealthy because they stayed invested. Meanwhile, the person waiting for the perfect time missed the rebound. Time in the market beats timing the market every single time. Do not day trade. Do not chase stock tips. JP Morgan found that missing just the 10 best days in a 20-year period cut returns in half. And guess what? Those best days usually happen right after the worst days, when everyone is panicking. The market rewards patience, it punishes cleverness. Now, let's talk about the silent killer, lifestyle inflation. You hit $20,000 and suddenly the 2014 Corolla feels embarrassing. So you upgrade, $380 per month. That's $4,560 per year. Invested at 10% for 30 years, over $800,000. You traded a nicer dashboard for almost $1 million. And in 3 years, that 2023 model will feel normal and you'll want another upgrade. That's the trap. People save $20,000 over 3 years, then spend $4,000 on a vacation because I deserve it. You can deserve things and still sabotage yourself. There's nothing wrong with enjoyment, but don't light 20% of your net worth on fire for Instagram photos. Be intentional. If you want ultra-safe options for short-term cash, you can look at treasury bills through Treasury Direct or your brokerage. If you're interested in real estate, $20,000 can qualify you for an FHA loan. 3.5% down on $200,000 is $7,000 plus closing costs. House hacking, living in one unit, renting the other can be powerful, but it's work. Index funds are passive. Real estate is active. Choose based on personality. Here's the truth. There are only two paths from $20,000. One leads to $350,000. One leads back to zero with a nicer car. The difference isn't intelligence, it isn't luck. It's whether you can do something boring and effective instead of exciting and destructive. Can you drive the paid-off Corolla while your coworker finances a BMW? Can you buy index funds when they're down 30%? Can you ignore the noise? Wealth isn't built by being brilliant, it's built by being boring. Open the Roth, buy the index fund, automate contributions, and then go live your life. Let compound interest quietly work while everyone else chases shiny objects. Be boring. Get wealthy. Everything else it's just noise.